The Tennessee Titans have made 15 free agent signings so far, a number that may very well have climbed since this video was published, and the roster has begun taking shape. The largest need, quarterback, will be dealt with on a Thursday night in late April. Their glaring hole at offensive tackle was addressed in free agency with their only splashy signing of left tackle Dan Moore, but there is still a lot of work to be done following the first wave of free agency. Edge and wide receiver are the two positions flashing red at the moment, but they're just the tip of the iceberg. I continue to reference this 2024 Commanders model because of how much I've heard the Titans brass reference it themselves and how similar I think it will end up being. Washington signed nearly 30 free agents when it was all said and done last year. A great many of them came beyond the first wave of free agency. I expect the Titans will do the same, plugging many of these holes with free agents in the coming weeks and months. So let's go position by position, identifying the specific holes on the depth chart and predicting when and where they'll be filled. If you're part of the Tennessee faithful, you know just how many years the Titans have shaved off your life with the emotional roller coaster of sports. Or maybe the roller coaster of life is messing with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals. The new year is a blank space for you to write a new story. BetterHelp makes it easier to get started. They are our incredible sponsor for this video. Regardless, if you have a clinical mental health issue like depression or anxiety, or if you're just a human going through a hard time, therapy can give you the tools you need to approach your life in a very different way. That's where our sponsor, BetterHelp, comes into play. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and more accessible. And this is an important mission because finding a therapist can be really hard, especially when you're limited to the options in your area. Easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost if it's not the right fit. BetterHelp's platform makes finding a therapist easier because it's online and remote. BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. Plus, with our link, you get 10% off your first month. Start fresh any day of the year with BetterHelp. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/ATOZsports and get 10% off your first month of therapy with BetterHelp. First up, wide receiver. Now, Calvin Ridley remains your top receiver in Tennessee, but at number 2 and number 3 behind him, there are some question marks right now. New addition Van Jefferson and second-year UDFA receiver Bryce Oliver make up your depth, but here's the inconvenient truth. The Titans know they may end up having to go into 2025 without a sufficient wide receiver room on paper. They're just in a pickle on that front, and there are some big choices they're going to have to make, especially coming up here in the draft. So predicting this today isn't as easy as some of the other positions, just because there are multiple ways they could go about it, and none of them are certain to yield an actual wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3. But here's what I do know. They're looking hard at receivers in the middle rounds of the draft. They have a pair of 4ths, a pair of 5ths, and a pair of 6th round picks right now. I'd bet serious money that at least one, probably 2 of those picks are a receiver. So happy hunting. I also think they'll add another receiver or 2 from the free agent pool, which was bad to begin with and is even worse now that it's been picked over. Next up, edge. I'm being nice listing Jones and Key as edge 2 and edge 3 here. I'm also just being realistic because really, you'd like them both bumped down a peg for a pair of starting edge rushers who are better than both of them. But the perfect roster isn't going to come from just one player acquisition cycle headed up by this new regime, and I don't see the Titans finding more than one edge better than Jones and Key before opening day. That player is going to have to come from the draft, unless they're eventually the surprise suitor of Zadarius Smith, I guess, but I wouldn't hold your breath on that one right now. So pick number 35 remains the edge spot to keep an eye on, where they're liable to find a first-round caliber player who slips down the board because of how stacked this class is. I expect a day 3 edge is also probably in their preliminary plans for the later rounds. At running back, Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears are going to remain your number 1 and number 2 tandem, but this is a position that the casual fan might not see as big a need as it actually is. The Titans are shopping for a specific kind of back. Now, this draft class is loaded at running back, and the consensus opinion within the league is that you're going to be able to find some really useful players in the late rounds and even in the UDFA pool once the draft is wrapped up. Because of the sheer value of some of the possible running back picks at the beginning of day 3, I wouldn't entirely rule out a dynamic back with a surprisingly high pick. But ultimately, they're looking for a power back to round out the room. Somebody who can run between the tackles and get grimy yards on dirty work downs. At tight end, I still think Chikakonkwo and Josh Wiley are your 1-2 punch, But tight end Nick Van Nett is a free agent, and so the Titans need another useful tight end in the building. If Josh Whyle had taken the step that many thought he could last year, perhaps this wouldn't be as big a need. But as things currently stand, they need somebody to operate in the Van Nett role, a traditional inline wide tight end who's versatile in the blocking and receiving game. This will be a late draft, UDFA, and or a late free agent signing. When you take a look at the cornerback room, this was one of the only deep groups the Titans had up until just recently when they released Chidobe Awuzie. Now, they've got a solid group of starters, but practically no depth. And if you've watched NFL football for more than one season, you know you're always going to end up needing your cornerback 4, and you're probably going to need your cornerback 5 eventually too. Now, third-year cornerback Darrell Baker was signed back to the roster a couple of weeks ago, but they need more and preferably better. As my friend James Foster once told me, if I were a GM, I would never not draft at least one cornerback, and I couldn't agree more. I think they're liable to come out of day 3 with one, as well as a couple of UDFA signings. Perhaps there's another vet added down the road, but nobody exciting. At linebacker, new addition Cody Barton is your starter, and then it's kind of a big question mark. The Titans linebacker room is in serious flux right now, and there's a wide open gauntlet currently thrown down for any of these young depth backers to claim a starting role alongside Barton. The Titans really want one of their second-year linebackers to claim that mantle and take the leap, but right now, that's a projection. Predicting it today, I think they'll bank on that projection and hope one of Gray, Williams, or Reese claims the mantle. They'll continue to look for additions that make them better, but a splashy ad in free agency or the draft currently isn't in the Titans' plans. And finally, at safety, Amani Hooker is still here, and the newest addition, Xavier Woods, is somebody who's going to be a sufficient starter alongside him, so they really only need a third option for depth. Would it be nice if that third option had the upside to become a better player than Woods and maybe even Hooker one day? For sure. And they'll look for that guy on day 3, the same place they found Hooker in 2019. If they don't find the right addition there, a short-term, probably one-year deal for a depth free agent is going to have to suffice. For A to Z Sports Nashville, I'm Easton Freeze.